There is a mirror humanity has collectively agreed not to look into. It doesn't reflect our curated identities, but the raw source code of our behavior, a set of ancient hardwired patterns operating in the shadows of consciousness, dictating our biases and unexamined impulses. This investigation forces our gaze into that mirror to ask one profound question. What are the universal, yet hidden, behavioral patterns hardwired into the human psyche? This isn't an inquiry into evil, but into the uncomfortable mechanics that make us predictably human, and why we invest so much energy pretending this internal architecture doesn't exist. Let's be clear, this is not an expedition into the abyss of psychopathy. Those are deviations. Our focus is the norm itself, the operating system running on billions of minds. We are searching for the subtle cognitive dissonances present in every boardroom, the quiet rationalizations made in every home, the invisible lines of in-group versus out-group drawn in every community. These are not bugs in our programming. They are fundamental features. They are ancient survival heuristics misfiring in a modern world, and we will explore the shadows that reside squarely in the center of the everyday human experience. To navigate this internal landscape, we will not rely on anecdotes or moral judgments. We will employ a specific methodology we call the reveal process. This is a structured approach for peeling back the layers of social conditioning, cultural narratives, and personal denial that obscure these core patterns. For each behavior, we will move through 3 stages. First, identification, where we isolate the pattern using evidence from psychology and history. Second, deconstruction, tracing its evolutionary origins. And finally, implication, where we analyze how this ancient code manifests in our modern world, from politics to personal relationships. So why is this a mirror we collectively avoid? The answer is simple and deeply uncomfortable. The truth is destabilizing. To acknowledge these hardwired patterns is to challenge our most cherished beliefs about ourselves, our sense of free will, our inherent goodness, and our claims to pure rationality. It suggests the institutions we build, from governments to justice systems, are not founded solely on enlightened principles, but are also shaped by these primitive, underlying currents. To look in this mirror is to admit we are not always the masters of our own house, but tenants living with ancient rules we fail to understand. This journey, however, is not an exercise in despair. It is about illumination. Understanding these hidden forces is the first critical step toward gaining true agency. By dragging these patterns from the shadows into the light of conscious examination, we begin to disarm their power. This series is a promise, not just a list of uncomfortable facts, but a framework for genuine self-awareness. It is an invitation to a difficult but essential exploration, because only by understanding the blueprint of our nature can we ever hope to build something better. Our first subject is a pattern you engage with every day, often without realizing its true purpose. To truly understand the reflection in the mirror, we must first agree on the tools we use to see it. This investigation will not rely on the shifting sands of anecdote or the echo chamber of public opinion. The questions at hand are too profound for simple conjecture. Therefore, our methodology will be transparent and rigorous, a clinical process designed to dissect, not to guess. We are moving beyond storytelling and into the realm of forensic analysis. The reveal process is our commitment to you, a journey built not on what we feel is true, but on what can be systematically demonstrated and verified. Our case is built upon 3 unshakable pillars of evidence. First, the crucible of documented psychological experiments, controlled environments designed to place human nature under an unforgiving microscope. Second, the vast landscape of sociological data, where subtle patterns of our collective behavior emerge from the noise of millions of lives. The third pillar is peer-reviewed cognitive science, allowing us to map the neural pathways and cognitive biases that give rise to these behaviors. These are our instruments, ensuring every claim is grounded in empirical research. With these tools, we will probe a fundamental conflict in understanding ourselves, the battle between situation and disposition. We are raised on the idea of inherent character, that our goodness is a fixed, internal trait. This is the dispositional view, but evidence points to a more disturbing reality, that the context we are in, the situation, can overwhelm our deepest values. This investigation treats this not as a philosophical debate, but as a testable hypothesis. Are our actions a reflection of who we are, or merely a product of where we find ourselves? It is crucial, then, to establish our ground rules. Our objective is not to cast judgment or assign blame. We are not here to separate the world into heroes and villains, a comforting but false binary. Instead, our purpose is to understand the mechanism. We will approach each piece of evidence not as an indictment of any person or group, but as a clue to the universal, hidden operating system that runs within us all. This is an inquiry into the process, not a trial of the person. The goal is illumination, not condemnation. And so, our investigation begins. The first thread we pull is not in the grand theater of historical atrocities, but in the quiet, internal monologue of a single decision. We start by examining the first, and perhaps most critical, dark pattern, the shocking ease with which ordinary people can grant themselves moral permission to commit indecent acts. How does the mind construct a justification for an action it knows is wrong? The answer lies within a laboratory, in a deeply unsettling experiment that reveals the first hairline fracture in the perfect image we hold of ourselves. Our investigation begins not in society's shadows, but in the mind itself. The mechanism allowing good people to justify questionable actions has a name: cognitive dissonance. It's a term you've heard, but its true power is profoundly underestimated. This is not a moral failing or a character flaw. It is a fundamental feature of our mental operating system, an internal alarm that triggers intense psychological stress when our actions clash with our beliefs. It's the discomfort of hypocrisy, where what we do conflicts with who we believe we are, and our brain will do almost anything to silence that alarm. To understand this mechanism's force, we turn to foundational evidence. In 1959, psychologists Leon Festinger and Merrill Carlsmith designed a deceptively simple experiment. University students performed a mind-numbingly tedious task for an hour, turning wooden pegs on a board. The task was engineered to be unequivocally boring. Afterwards, they were asked to do the experimenters a favor. Tell the next waiting participant that the task was actually fascinating. For this small act of deception, some students were paid $20, a significant sum, while others were paid a paltry $1. Here, the human mind reveals its strange logic. When surveyed later, the students paid $20 admitted the task was boring. They had a clear, external justification for their lie. They did it for the money, so the discomfort was minimal. But the group paid a single dollar faced a crisis. $1 was not enough to justify lying. This created a powerful dissonance between their action and their belief in their own honesty. To resolve this tension, their minds performed a stunning act of acrobatics. They retroactively changed their own beliefs. They convinced themselves the task was actually enjoyable. This is the justification engine in its purest form. The brain, faced with two conflicting realities, I am an honest person, and I just lied for no good reason, cannot change the past action. The lie is permanent. So, it takes the only path available. It rewrites the belief. The lie becomes the truth. This isn't a conscious choice. It's an automatic, subconscious process of self-deception designed to protect our sense of self. It ensures our internal narrative remains consistent, even if it means distorting reality. We are all running this software, silently editing our history to feel justified and righteous. This seemingly trivial experiment exposes the bedrock of human rationalization. If the mind can so easily twist perception over $1, what happens when the stakes are higher? What happens when the action isn't a small lie, but a betrayal, an act of cruelty, or a collective decision to ignore an uncomfortable truth? The dissonance becomes greater, and the justification engine works harder, building more elaborate narratives to shield us from our own behavior. This is not a bug in our programming, it's a survival feature. But it is a feature with a terrifyingly dark side, one that allows us to live with any choice we make, no matter the cost. While cognitive dissonance is the internal engine justifying our actions, the presence of others can shut that engine down. It's a chilling paradox. The crowd, our source of safety, can become a silent accomplice to tragedy. We've all wondered about it. The cry for help on a busy street, the emergency where dozens are present, yet no one intervenes. It's easy to label this urban apathy, a symptom of a disconnected world. But the truth is a systematic glitch in our social wiring that paralyzes good people, turning them into passive spectators of horror. This phenomenon was brutally thrust into public consciousness in 1964 with the case of Kitty Genovese. The initial story reported that 38 respectable citizens in Queens, New York, witnessed her being attacked over half an hour, yet no one called the police. While the 38 witnesses' detail has since been contested, its impact was indelible, creating a moral shockwave across the nation. The question wasn't about the mind of a killer, but about the collective mind of the bystanders. Why did they do nothing? What invisible force held them back? Psychologists Bibb Latané and John Darley refused to accept apathy as an answer, suspecting a powerful situational pressure was at play. To test this, they designed a series of ingenious experiments. In the most famous, they pumped smoke into a room to simulate an emergency. When a participant was alone, they reported it over 75% of the time. But in a room with two passive actors instructed to ignore the smoke, that number plummeted to just 10%. The participants looked to others for cues, and seeing inaction, they concluded the emergency wasn't real. Latané and Darley gave this paralysis a name: the diffusion of responsibility. The mechanism is deceptively simple. If you are the sole witness, 100% of the burden to act rests on your shoulders. The moral weight is immense. But with just one other person present, that responsibility is suddenly split 50-50ths. With a crowd, your individual share of duty becomes so small it feels negligible. It's not a conscious calculation, but a subconscious offloading of responsibility, assuming someone else is more qualified, closer, or will simply do something. In this social calculus, everyone assumes someone else will be the hero, leaving no one to fill the role. This silent conspiracy is not a relic of the past. It thrives today in online harassment and viral videos where people film instead of help. Understanding these hidden scripts that dictate our inaction is the first step to rewriting them. If this deep dive into the unseen forces shaping our morality is valuable to you, make sure you subscribe. Because next, we move from the psychology of the crowd to the shocking power of a simple uniform. But if the presence of others can paralyze us into inaction, what happens when we are not just bystanders, but active participants in a system designed to test our moral limits? What happens when we are given a role, a uniform, and a permission structure to exert power over others? This question led to one of the most infamous and unsettling experiments in modern psychology, conducted not in a war zone, but in the sterile basement of a prestigious university. In the summer of 1971, psychologist Philip Zimbardo recruited 24 psychologically stable, healthy, and ordinary male college students. A coin toss decided their fate for the next 2 weeks. They would either become a prisoner or a guard in a simulated prison. It was meant to be a simple study on the psychology of imprisonment. It became a terrifying demonstration of how quickly the lines between role-playing and reality can dissolve. Initially, the roles felt artificial, almost comical. The guards, clad in khaki uniforms and reflective sunglasses that made eye contact impossible, were awkward in their newfound authority. The prisoners, stripped of their names and given numbers, wearing ill-fitting smocks and chains on their ankles, were defiant. But the situation was a powerful catalyst. The environment itself, the barred cells, the solitary confinement closet, the constant surveillance, was not neutral. It was an engine of transformation. The guards were instructed simply to maintain a reasonable degree of order, a vague directive that they quickly began to interpret with creative and escalating cruelty. The power, once tasted, became intoxicating. The game was no longer a game. It had become their new, terrifying reality. Within 36 hours, the first prisoner suffered an acute emotional breakdown, screaming with rage and despair. The guards' behavior had devolved from simple rule enforcement to sadistic psychological torture. They used sleep deprivation, forced exercise as punishment, and manipulated the prisoners. Against each other, they invented new rules on a whim, purely to demonstrate their absolute control. These were not monsters. Days earlier, they were students concerned with exams and dating. Yet, in the crucible of the Stanford prison, they became architects of misery. The prisoners, in turn, were not weak-willed individuals. They were bright young men who rapidly succumbed to a state of learned helplessness, becoming passive, disorganized, and dehumanized. The system was overriding their individual identities. This terrifying metamorphosis is driven by a process called de-individuation. The uniforms, the numbers, the sunglasses, they all served to strip away personal identity and, with it, personal responsibility. The guards were not John or David. They were a monolithic entity, a guard, acting out a perceived script of authority. Their actions were not their own. They belonged to the role. The power differential was absolute, and with no external checks or balances, the situational forces completely overwhelmed individual morality. The good apples placed in a bad barrel had not just spoiled, they had become the source of the rot itself, actively corrupting the environment for everyone within it. The experiment, planned for 2 weeks, was terminated after just 6 days. The transformation was too complete, too dangerous. Zimbardo himself, acting as the prison superintendent, had become so engrossed in his role that he failed to see the profound suffering he was causing until an outsider pointed it out. The Stanford prison experiment leaves us with a deeply unsettling question, one that cuts to the core of our self-perception. We all believe we are the hero of our own story, that we would resist, that we would be different. But the evidence from that basement suggests that the line between good and evil is permeable. It suggests that the capacity for tyranny lies dormant within the ordinary, waiting only for the right situation to awaken it. Would you have been the guard who showed compassion, or the one who devised a new cruelty? The Stanford experiment reveals how a toxic environment can corrupt the ordinary. But this explanation, while powerful, leaves a critical question unanswered. What if the capacity for manipulation isn't just forged in a bad situation, but is a fundamental component of someone's very being? We now shift our focus from external forces to the internal architecture defining some of us. This is the domain of the dark triad, a specific, clinical constellation of 3 personality traits. It's not a diagnosis of evil, but a psychological blueprint for a person who navigates the world through dominance, deception, and a profound disregard for others. The first pillar of this triad is narcissism. This goes far beyond simple vanity. At its core, clinical narcissism is a paradox, a grandiose sense of self-importance built upon an incredibly fragile ego. This individual requires constant, excessive admiration not just to feel good, but to feel stable. They are driven by fantasies of unlimited success, power, and brilliance. Empathy is a foreign concept. Other people exist only as mirrors to reflect their perceived greatness or as tools to be used in its pursuit. Any criticism is perceived as a direct, existential attack, often triggering disproportionate and vengeful rage. The second pillar is Machiavellianism, the master strategist. This trait is defined by a cynical detachment and a willingness to manipulate and deceive to achieve one's goals. Where the narcissist craves applause, the Machiavellian craves control. They are patient, calculating, and view social interactions as a chess match where other people are simply pawns. They operate on a cold logic that the ends always justify the means. If this clinical breakdown of human behavior is valuable to you, hit the like button and let us know in the comments which trait you find most unsettling. This pragmatic immorality allows them to lie and betray with a clear conscience. For them, it's not personal, it's just effective. Finally, we arrive at the triad's chilling core, psychopathy. This is characterized by a profound lack of empathy and remorse, combined with high impulsivity and antisocial behavior. While the other traits involve a disregard for others, psychopathy involves a fundamental inability to process their emotions meaningfully. They can mimic feelings like warmth and sincerity to charm and disarm their targets, but it's a performance devoid of substance. This emotional void creates a fearlessness often mistaken for courage, enabling them to take extreme risks without the inhibitory anxiety that governs most of us. They are predators in a social ecosystem, unburdened by guilt. These traits are dangerous alone, but their true power is unleashed in combination. Imagine a personality with the narcissist's insatiable hunger for validation, the Machiavellian strategic, cold-blooded planning, and the psychopath's complete lack of a moral break. This creates a uniquely potent manipulator. The narcissism provides the motive to prove their superiority. The Machiavellianism provides the method, a patient, deceptive strategy, and the psychopathy provides the means. The freedom to act without remorse, fear, or concern for collateral damage. This isn't a monster from fiction. It is a documented psychological profile, a blueprint for a person engineered to exploit the fabric of human trust. But the capacity for darkness isn't confined to the machinations of a single, manipulative mind. There's a far older, more powerful force at play. One that resides not in the individual, but in the collective. It's a hidden switch in the human brain, an ancient evolutionary echo that, when flipped, can transform rational people into a hostile mob. This isn't about personality disorders or a lack of empathy. It's about a fundamental, hardwired instinct to divide the world into two simple categories, us and them. What if the most dangerous human impulse isn't hatred, but belonging? Psychologists call this the tribal instinct, and its operating system is known as social identity theory. The premise is deceptively simple. First, we categorize ourselves and others into groups, based on nationality, religion, a favorite sports team, or even the most arbitrary distinctions. Second, we identify with our group, adopting its norms and values. Our self-esteem becomes intrinsically linked to the group's status. We are no longer just me. We are we. This process is so automatic, so deeply ingrained, that we are often unaware it's happening. It's the silent architecture of our social world, a blueprint for connection that carries a hidden, dangerous cost. Nowhere was this switch demonstrated more chillingly than in the Robbers Cave experiment. In 1954, researchers brought two groups of ordinary 11-year-old boys to a summer camp. The groups, the Eagles and the Rattlers, were kept separate, allowing strong internal bonds to form. Then, they were introduced through a series of competitive games. The transformation was immediate and terrifying. These were well-adjusted children, yet within days, they were raiding each other's cabins, burning flags, and hurling insults. Friendship dissolved into prejudice, and cooperation into open hostility, all triggered by the simple creation of an outgroup competing for a prize. The final, critical step in this process is social comparison. To enhance our own group status, we instinctively diminish the other. The them-us versus them ceases to be a collection of individuals with their own hopes and fears. They become a monolith, a caricature defined by negative traits. This is the cognitive gateway to dehumanization. The outgroup is not just different, they are lesser. They are dirty, stupid, or dangerous. This psychological distancing makes prejudice feel not just acceptable, but logical. It's a defense mechanism for the group, neutralizing empathy and paving the way for actions that would otherwise be unthinkable. This is the terrifying scalability of tribalism. The mental mechanism that turns summer campers into rivals is the same engine that fuels ethnic cleansing. The insults shouted across a sports stadium and the propaganda broadcast before a massacre are born from the same psychological root. It's the activation of our most primitive survival circuit, supercharged by political manipulation. The Robbers Cave experiment didn't reveal a flaw in a few children. It exposed a fundamental, exploitable feature of the human mind. The groundwork for humanity's greatest atrocities isn't laid in evil manifestos, but in the simple, silent click of our us versus them switch. It's a sensation we've all felt, but few will ever admit to. A ghost of a smile we suppress when a rival sports team fumbles at the goal line. A flicker of satisfaction when an arrogant colleague's high-stakes project fails spectacularly. This feeling has a name, a German word that captures its uncomfortable precision, Schadenfreude. Literally, harm joy. It is the strange, secret, and deeply human pleasure derived from the misfortunes of others. This is not a rare psychological anomaly reserved for villains and stories. It is a fundamental, albeit shadowy, component of our social-emotional wiring, a direct consequence of the us versus them circuitry we have just explored. It's the next logical step. Once an outgroup is established, their failure can begin to feel like our victory. This isn't mere philosophy. It's written into our neurochemistry. When scientists placed individuals inside fMRI scanners and told them stories of others' misfortunes, a specific pattern emerged. When the person suffering was someone the subject envied, a high-achieving student, for instance, a key area of the brain lit up, the ventral striatum. This is not some abstract cognitive center. This is the core of our brain's reward system. It's the very same region that activates when we eat delicious food, win money, or receive praise. Our brain, at its most primal level, processes the downfall of an envied rival as a reward. It delivers a small, pleasurable hit of dopamine, a silent, neurological applause for another's failure, confirming that this dark joy isn't just a thought, but a genuine, physiological experience. But what primes the brain for such a reaction? The emotion doesn't arise in a vacuum. Schadenfreude flourishes in the bitter soil of envy, rivalry, and perceived injustice. We rarely feel it for the misfortunes of a stranger we admire or a friend we support. Instead, it is aimed squarely at those whose success we feel is undeserved, or whose advantages serve as a painful reminder of our own shortcomings. The success of a rival can feel like a personal threat to our own status in a social hierarchy. The subsequent failure, therefore, isn't just a misfortune, it's a rebalancing of the scales. It's a passive victory in a competition we may not have even realized we were fighting. A quiet restoration of a perceived cosmic order where their fall validates our own position. This mechanism is intimately tied to our own self-esteem. Research consistently shows that individuals with lower or more fragile self-worth experience schadenfreude more frequently and with greater intensity. When our own sense of value is unstable, the failure of another provides a temporary, external boost. It's a cognitive shortcut to feeling better about ourselves, not by elevating our own standing, but by witnessing the lowering of another's. This is often masked by a veneer of righteousness. When a corrupt politician is exposed or a hypocritical celebrity is disgraced, we tell ourselves our satisfaction is a desire for justice. And while that may be part of it, the underlying neurological reward system doesn't distinguish. It simply recognizes a high-status rival has fallen, and it delivers its chemical prize all the same. Ultimately, this exploration of schadenfreude isn't a portrait of a distant villain. It is a mirror. It forces us to confront the comparative engine humming quietly beneath our own civilized exterior. That small, undeniable spark of pleasure when the driver who cut you off gets pulled over by the police. That fleeting sense of relief when a competitor for a promotion makes a critical error. This is not evidence of evil, but evidence of a brain hardwired for status and comparison. To deny its existence within ourselves is to ignore a crucial piece of our own programming. The real challenge is not to pretend we are above it, but to ask what we do when we feel it. When we recognize that secret pleasure in another's pain, blooming in the quietest corners of our mind. We have journeyed through the unsettling corridors of the mind, examining each exhibit in isolation, the silent paralysis of the bystander, the obedient administrator of pain, the terrifying transformation of the prison guard. We uncovered the ancient switch that divides the world into us and them, and we confronted the secret pleasure we take in the misfortune of others. But to see these as disconnected flaws is to miss the architectural blueprint. These are not individual bugs in our programming. They are the gears and levers of a single, cohesive machine, waiting for the right conditions to whir to life. The grand synthesis, grounded entirely in the evidence, is as profound as it is disturbing. Our capacity for darkness is not a random aberration, but a predictable, integrated system. It operates like a cognitive cascade, where one mechanism triggers the next in a chain reaction of moral compromise. It often begins subtly, with a small action that creates a flicker of cognitive dissonance. This internal conflict, this desperate need to justify ourselves, becomes the kindling. The environment then provides the oxygen, a uniform, a title, a perceived threat, igniting the engine of situational influence, which amplifies our worst tendencies. Consider how these forces interlock. The bystander effect is not merely a diffusion of responsibility. It is tribalism in its most passive form. The person in need is another, making our inaction easier to rationalize. The power of a situation, as Zimbardo demonstrated, provides the stage for this instinct to become active. It hands us a script, a role, and a clearly defined outgroup. Personal accountability evaporates, replaced by the duties of the role. The question is no longer, what should I do? But what is a person like me expected to do to them? This is where the final pieces lock into place. Once we have acted upon this script, once we have harmed or neglected the outgroup, cognitive dissonance returns with a vengeance. To preserve our self-image as a good person, we cannot believe we have harmed an innocent. We must believe they deserve their fate. This act of justification degrades the victim in our own minds. And it is in this fertile soil of self-justification that the seed of Schadenfreude blooms. The pleasure we feel at their suffering becomes the system's ultimate reward, a neurological confirmation that our actions were justified. The result is a terrifying, self-reinforcing loop. Situational pressure activates a tribal identity. This identity enables actions that would normally create dissonance. Dissonance is resolved by dehumanizing the target. The target's suffering then triggers a Schadenfreude-based reward, which validates the initial tribal division and makes the next transgression easier. This is the unified model of our inner darkness. It is not an external monster. It is a system, an algorithm, built from the very cognitive tools that once ensured our survival, an ancient, efficient, and predictable feature of the human condition, waiting for the right inputs to run its program. And so we arrive at the end of our investigation, not with a simple verdict, but with a sobering and profound truth. We have followed the evidence through the labyrinth of the human mind, but we must honestly state what we cannot prove. We cannot isolate a single gene for cruelty, nor can we point to a specific region of the brain and call it the seat of evil. We cannot, with 100% accuracy, predict which individual will break under pressure and which will stand firm. The darkness we've explored is not a malevolent entity to be captured, but a complex, emergent property of the very systems that make us human. To expect a simple answer is to misunderstand the fundamental nature of the question. This investigation's final report is not an indictment, but a map of our own internal landscape with all its treacherous terrain. The true power of this knowledge, then, lies not in prediction, but in prevention. It is not a crystal ball for identifying future villains, but a blueprint for building better systems. When an engineer understands why a bridge collapses, they don't just blame the storm. They design stronger bridges. In the same way, understanding the mechanics of the bystander effect allows us to design protocols that encourage intervention. Knowing the seductive power of tribalism enables us to build institutions that foster cross-group empathy. We have spent this entire journey identifying the failure points in our own cognitive and social machinery. The purpose was never to condemn the machine, but to learn how to maintain it, how to reinforce its weaknesses, and how to create environments where it is simply less likely to fail. Ultimately, the most critical application of this understanding is not societal, but personal. This entire investigation has been a mirror, and its final, unavoidable subject is the person looking into it. To learn about cognitive dissonance is to gain the power to question our own convenient narratives. To understand the Milgram experiment is to be forever humbled by our own deference to authority. This knowledge is a sentinel, standing guard in our own minds. It allows us to catch that fleeting, dark pleasure of Schadenfreude and ask why it's there. It equips us to recognize the pull of the in-group and consciously resist its worst impulses. It is not about achieving perfection, but about cultivating a relentless, compassionate self-awareness. This personal awareness is the seed from which a more resilient society grows. When citizens understand the psychological tactics of demagogues, they are harder to manipulate. When leaders are aware of the corrupting nature of unchecked power, they can build organizations with robust checks and balances. When our legal systems acknowledge the deep-seated reality of implicit bias, they can strive for procedures that are genuinely blind to prejudice. This is not a utopian fantasy. It is the practical, step-by-step work of applying our understanding of human fallibility to the real world. Every system we build, from a local school board to an international treaty, can be made more humane and more effective by accounting for the psychological truths we have uncovered. Therefore, our final report concludes that the beast is not an invader. It lives within the architecture. The capacity for darkness is not a bug in our system, but a feature, an ancient, evolutionary echo that can be amplified or muted by circumstance, ideology, and most importantly, by choice. We have not provided a weapon to destroy the monster, because the monster is inseparable from us. Instead, we have handed you a manual, a guide to the complex, beautiful, and dangerous machine that is the human mind. The ultimate responsibility, the final, terrifying, and liberating truth, is that the choice of how to operate it, now and forever, rests with you.